Hi, Beth, Brenda, and Pastor. Beth and Brenda, you were working on the ministry map the other evening, and you asked me a question about what the numbers mean. I think I know what you mean specifically. So I want to cut this very brief video to show you. So let me share the ministry map. If we open up our Basecamp, here it is. We're going to go into Docs and Files. We're going to find the ministry map, which is located in the sector of the Ministry Clarity Directors. Here's the ministry map loaded into a shareable Google Drive. So we're going to click on View on Google. There we go. And this is our ministry map. The ministries of the congregation are located down that second column. Again, your ministry areas. You can play with those if you want, or you can just not worry about those at all. So I think here's where the numbers that you were talking about. This ministry map, the first and the biggest reason for the map is to be able to evaluate. And that will then help us think through what do we need to plan. So I believe these are the numbers, the ones, the twos, and the threes, Beth and Brenda, that you were wondering, how do those function? I'll show you in a second. So you see that those are our mission pillars across the top: word and sacrament, faith and action, evangelism, prayer, unity, joy. So each ministry group will actually analyze or evaluate their particular ministry operation. Each of these various groups are led by a staff member or a volunteer leader, if you will, and it's these two people or a couple of people that we want to work with initially in our first ministry leaders meeting upcoming. And so we'll teach them how to evaluate with their group. So again, that may not be entirely clear to you, but that gives you just a look at how this functions. And so we'll pick the main groups and we'll meet with them. More about that later. I've got actual documents that will help you with that. But again, to the numbers. So they'll be evaluating whether or not this particular ministry group is actually able to execute and support the mission pillars. I want to be very careful about that. Mission pillars are these. They're the activities and the behaviors of every single member to uphold the vision of Gethsemane Lutheran Church. These are the big columns of strength or pillars that uphold that. You should remember those things. And this little side note over here is just as the ministry groups meet about those things, any quick notes about this that they want to make, this is what this column is for. Don't get too far into the weeds. This is all about explaining this. If you scroll down, you see the evaluation legend of the mission pillars. A 1 means this ministry group is equipped to educate and encourage this pillar. Number 2 means this ministry group might be equipped to educate and encourage this pillar among their members. The key word is might or may. All right. It may work in that way and it may not. Number 3 says this ministry group is not equipped to educate and encourage this pillar. Just take that for what it's worth. And then a 0 simply indicates this ministry group does not need to be educated or encourage this pillar or even worry about it. Again, I included this little note in your ministry map. Mission pillars are the daily activities and behaviors of the members of the congregation to practicing to uphold the vision of the congregation. So when a ministry group meets, a church council or board of elders or board of education, LWML, evangelism group, whenever you're gathering together for a meeting, the leaders of that particular group, the ministry leaders of this group, what they can do anytime you're meeting with members of the church in a small group setting, the leaders can reinforce and encourage their group members to be practicing these pillars, which are, what does this mean? And that's why all of these have definition in another document. So for instance, in this, whatever this category is, let's just scroll over and see 10 o'clock worship. Staff leaders, Pastor Pato, and our head elder is the volunteer leader. So this is kind of an interesting. So this is probably one of your largest groups. And so for pastor, it's thinking through, hey, word and sacrament means we're practicing word and sacrament in a corporate setting, but we also practice word and sacrament ministry in our daily lives. That's daily devotions, being in the word together. So on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, pastor has the opportunity to reinforce being an active, involved in worship. And so a 1 here means if we scroll down, this ministry group, Pastor Pato, is equipped to educate and encourage people to be practicing this pillar of daily prayer or daily being in the word and praying together, family devotions, couple devotions, or individual devotions. So putting a 1 here means, hey, this group, very easy to do that. In terms of evangelism, what does number 3 mean again? It means this ministry group is not equipped to educate and encourage. Well, these numbers here are just an example. We'd probably change that to at least a 2, maybe even a 1, because we're evaluating, is this happening in this group? Now, maybe we would just say if we gave this a 3, currently in worship, our worship leaders don't do anything to encourage people to be involved in evangelism. That's a hypothetical. So we would put a 3 there, and then we would probably actually go ahead and highlight that in red because we want that to stand out. As we step back from the map after it's completed, kind of go, hey, where are all the red markers in this column? And we may make a note here about those things over to the side. Prayer, well, prayer is probably going to be a 1 for 10 o'clock worship, because I suspect Pastor Pato and the head elder and any worship leaders will be encouraging people as we pray on Sunday morning. That prayer list and what we prayed for, we want you to continue to pray for people this week. So we'd probably change that to a 1. Unity. Let's just say that, it's probably going to be a 1 also, because our worship time at 10 or 10:30 needs to involve those things. This would be different if this was the Board of Elders meeting. Are we encouraging people to be in daily devotion? As I meet with my elders, I want my individual elders, I'm going to encourage them. I'm not going to tackle all of these mission pillars at every single meeting. I'm just going to highlight one or the other. So the purpose of these numbers to evaluate are when our individual groups take a look at this, and we're going to help them to think through how to evaluate, we want them to actually evaluate the numbers we want them to evaluate their group with their numbers, because maybe the Board of Elders, if this row 3 was about elders way over here to the left, the elders may or may not think at all about evangelizing, but we want to encourage them in their daily activities to be witnesses to the grace of God in Jesus Christ, to be witnesses to the Father who is encouraging people in their vocations. So that's this video is getting too long, so I just want to stop there. So you don't really have to worry about these, but that's just an explanation. What I want to do with you, Beth and Brenda and Pastor, is soon meet to talk about how do we gather ministry leaders together to begin actually evaluating these things. So as long as you get this together, what are the various ministry groups, then we're good to go. We're ready for the next meeting. So I hope that was helpful. Sorry for the long video, but I hope that was a good explanation. Oh, I got to stop recording.